There's a thought in physics that every tiny decision made by particles, every spin, every turn, might not just decide one outcome, but split reality into many. It sounds like science fiction, yet it lives quietly in quantum mechanics, the branch of science that studies the very small. If you're here, you're probably in love with the cosmos and you want a calm night with a story that drifts through wonder without rushing. Well, you came to a perfect place. Tonight, we're going to explore the strange possibility that there isn't just one universe, but countless, and that every choice, even the small ones you barely notice, might already exist in a parallel reality. While you relax and maybe fall asleep, your subconscious mind can wander through these endless branches, curious but unhurried. Think of your kitchen, simple and familiar. On the counter, a cup sits. You decide whether to pour coffee or tea. In one universe, the cup is dark and bitter. In another, it is light and fragrant. In countless more, you decide not to pour anything at all. Physics suggests that reality might not pick just one version, but quietly allow all of them, each unfolding in its own path. This idea comes from the strangeness of quantum mechanics. Particles do not sit in one place or spin in one way until measured. They live in superpositions, like coins balanced between heads and tails. When measured, we see one result, but the equations never throw away the others. They keep them alive in mathematics. The many worlds interpretation suggests the universe itself never chooses. Instead, it keeps everything, branching into versions where every possible outcome plays out. When an electron spins up here, another universe hosts the spin down. When you take a step left, another version of you steps right. It is a strange thought, and a heavy one if you carry it too quickly, so we take it slowly. Imagine a tree, quiet in a park. The trunk is the past, solid one line of wood, then the branches spread, thick, then thinner, reaching in many directions. You can sit under the tree and trace one branch with your eyes, but the tree itself does not pick just one, it holds them all. Quantum mechanics whispers that reality might be like that tree. We see one branch clearly, we walk along it, but the whole tree exists all the same. When physicist Hugh Everett suggested this in the 1950s, many of his colleagues shook their heads. They thought it was too much, too strange, but his idea solved a quiet puzzle. Quantum mechanics works with equations that never collapse possibilities, yet in our lives, we see definite outcomes. Everett said, "Don't collapse the equations, just accept that all outcomes exist, but in different universes." If you go to your kitchen late at night and open the fridge, you see only one light switch flipped, one bulb glowing. But in this interpretation, there are versions where the switch never flipped, where the fridge stayed dark, and yet you are still standing there. In that sense, the fridge of reality is wired with many bulbs, many doors, and every one of them is open somewhere. It can feel unsettling, but it is also oddly comforting. Every choice you made and every choice you didn't has a place where it continues. Nothing is erased, nothing is lost. Of course, we do not see these other versions, not directly. Each branch moves on, quietly separated, but we can think of them as neighbors, close in some hidden dimension, unreachable, yet not gone. For now, take a deep breath and hold the thought like a smooth stone. The world you know is one branch, steady and real. Yet physics hints there are countless others, branching every moment, not loud, not dramatic, just gentle and continuous. Let's drift quietly now into the history of how quantum mechanics came to this point, how experiments with light and particles forced scientists to admit that reality is stranger than common sense allows. The idea of many worlds does not appear out of nowhere. It rises slowly out of questions that scientists could not ignore when they first looked closely at the smallest pieces of nature. Take a beam of light, shine it through two slits in a wall, and watch the pattern on the far side. If light were made of little bullets, you would expect two bright stripes where the bullets hit. If light were only waves, you would expect ripples spreading and interfering, like water through two gaps in a pier. What scientists found was stranger. Light behaved like both, showing interference as if it were a wave, yet arriving in dots as if it were particles. Now make it slower, send one photon at a time. The pattern still appears, dot by dot, as if each photon interferes with itself, going through both slits at once. It is like tossing a coin that lands on both heads and tails until you look, and then it chooses. This is the beginning of quantum mechanics, where particles are described not by certainties, but by probabilities, not by clear positions, but by waves of possibility. If you walk into your kitchen and put a kettle on the stove, you know what will happen. The water will heat, it will bubble, it will steam. You can predict it with ease. But if you could shrink yourself to the size of an electron inside one molecule of that water, your future would not be so certain. The electron does not sit in one spot. It is a cloud, a probability spread, waiting until measured. Scientists like Niels Bohr and Werner Heisenberg accepted this uncertainty and built the Copenhagen interpretation. They said reality remains fuzzy until observed, and measurement collapses the wave into one result, like a card drawn from a shuffled deck. Once revealed, it has one value, and the rest are gone. But Hugh Everett thought differently. He suggested, what if the wave never collapses? What if all the outcomes happen, each in its own branch of reality? Instead of the deck discarding possibilities, it deals every card, each in a different hand, each in a different universe. At first, this sounded outrageous. Scientists already struggled with quantum weirdness, and Everett's suggestion multiplied worlds without end. But it solved something that felt artificial about the Copenhagen view. In that view, measurement is special, as if consciousness or observation holds power over physics. In Everett's view, measurement is just another interaction, no collapse needed, just branching. To understand this more gently, let's return to that beam of light. In our world, the photon goes through one slit, and we measure it. In another, it goes through the other slit. In another, it does both and interferes with itself. The photon's path is not destroyed, it is simply carried forward into many different versions of reality. When you ask your friend to flip a coin at the table, you see one outcome, heads, perhaps. But in Everett's thought, there is another version of you, sitting at a nearly identical table, seeing tails. Both are real, both continue, yet neither sees the other. It is not only coins. Every quantum event, every atom, every molecule branches reality further. The universe becomes a tree of possibilities, splitting not in rare dramatic moments, but in every instant, in every place. At this point, you may ask, why don't we feel these other versions? Why does life seem like one clear path, not a forest of them? The answer is in a process called decoherence. When quantum possibilities interact with the environment, they spread out into different branches, and the branches stop interfering. They become like parallel rivers that flow side by side but never mix. You sail on one river, you see its shores, but the others keep flowing just out of sight. If you have ever walked through a city at night and seen lights in hundreds of windows, you know each one holds its own little world. People cooking, resting, arguing, laughing. You cannot see inside, but you know those lives continue in parallel. Many worlds says reality is like that, except the windows are not in buildings. They are in the structure of physics itself. Think of Schrödinger's cat, that famous thought experiment. A cat placed in a box with a quantum device that has a 50% chance of releasing poison. Until observed, the cat is both alive and dead. In the Copenhagen view, observation decides, collapse chooses one. In Everett's view, both outcomes occur. In one branch, the cat is alive. In another, the cat is dead. Both branches are real, and the observer splits with them, seeing one result in each. This is unsettling to some because it multiplies reality without end. But it is also elegant because it removes the need for a special rule at measurement. The universe just evolves, smoothly and deterministically, branching as needed. Pause a moment and let that sink in. The world you feel beneath your feet, The thoughts in your mind are one branch of an enormous tree, not the only branch, but the one you walk along. Others exist, but you cannot cross to them. Some physicists still resist this. They argue it makes reality too crowded, too extravagant. They prefer interpretations where the wave collapses or where hidden variables decide outcomes. But many worlds remains, quietly persuasive, because it matches the equations without adding collapse or hidden rules. If you talk with a friend about this, you may find they tilt their head and smile. Either they find it delightful or they find it unsettling. Rarely in between. The thought that another version of you is out there, choosing differently, drinking tea instead of coffee, stepping left instead of right, is both playful and profound. And yet, remember, for you, the listener here and now, your branch is complete and whole. It does not lack anything. You do not feel split, you feel steady. That is the beauty of this idea. You live one story fully, while countless others unfold unseen. Let's drift quietly now into how this idea connects to our daily lives. How even simple choices, like turning a page or setting down a cup, may echo in countless parallel realities. Each ordinary moment carrying cosmic weight, yet remaining gentle in your hands. When people first hear about the many worlds idea, it often feels distant, like something that belongs only in equations or in science fiction novels. But the truth is, if it is real, it stretches into every corner of life. Not just galaxies and stars, but kitchens, sidewalks, and even the smallest flickers of thought. Imagine waking up in the morning, standing by your kitchen counter, staring at two mugs. One is chipped but familiar, the other is new and smooth. You choose the chipped one because you like the weight of it in your hand. In this universe, coffee pours into that chipped mug and steam curls upward. But in another branch, your hand hesitates, moves to the smooth mug, and reality splits to honor that tiny motion. In one branch, your morning begins with comfort, in another, with novelty. To you, sitting here now, only one feels real. But physics whispers that both are, each tucked safely in its own universe, each with its own flow of time. That is the odd beauty of many worlds. It does not need grand decisions to cause branches. Even the smallest quantum event, an electron deciding where to land, can open a new path. So by the time you pick a mug, countless branches already exist, stacking one atop another like a quiet forest of possibilities. The idea can feel overwhelming, like trying to count grains of sand on a beach. So let's step slowly, one image at a time. Picture a tree in a park, steady and old, with branches spreading in every direction. You walk along one branch, steady beneath your feet, and to you it is the only one. But the tree does not choose just one branch, it holds them all. That is how many worlds imagines reality itself. Now let's pull this down gently into something even more familiar. Toss a coin. You see it land heads. In your world, that is the outcome. But in another, just as real, it lands tails. If you toss it again, in one branch you win the game, in another you lose, and the universe calmly holds both, never erasing, never discarding. Some scientists resist this because it feels extravagant, like reality is multiplying far too generously. But the equations of quantum mechanics never collapse possibilities, they carry them forward. So Everett's idea simply lets them keep going without trimming anything away. Let's walk outside for a moment, in thought. Imagine you're crossing a street. In one universe, you pause at the curb because a friend calls your name. In another, you don't pause, you step forward. In one, you meet a stranger at the cafe across the street. In another, you never do. Each outcome is contained in its own universe, sealed off from the others, like pages in separate books. The books never meet, but they all sit on the same shelf of possibility. It's important to say this clearly. In your life, you do not feel the branching, you feel only the one story you walk. The other branches are invisible to you. Decoherence, the process of quantum states spreading out and separating, makes sure of that. Each branch is sealed from interference, like rivers that flow side by side without mixing. You may wonder, what does this mean for identity? Are there other versions of you out there in those branches? The idea says yes, though not in a mystical way, simply as a consequence of physics. Versions of you who made different choices, versions who spoke different words. But remember, for you, sitting here now, only your path is whole. The other versions are not ghosts or shadows. They are complete in themselves, just unreachable. Think of walking down a hallway lined with mirrors. In each reflection, you see yourself take a slightly different step, tilt your head a different way. Each reflection is complete, but you remain with the one body that moves forward. Many worlds is like those mirrors, except the reflections do not fade. They continue, each with its own reality behind the glass. Some people find this comforting, the idea that no possibility is truly lost. Others find it heavy, because it means there are worlds where things went wrong. But the key is, you only live the branch you are in. You are whole within it, not split, not diminished. Let's come back to the kitchen again, because the simplest images are often the clearest. Picture boiling water in a pot. Each bubble rises and bursts, random in detail, yet part of a steady process. If you zoom into one bubble, it is complete, with its own shape and journey. Zoom out, and you see countless bubbles rising together. Our universe, in many worlds, is like that pot. We live inside one bubble, complete and whole, while countless others rise beside us. The science of this rests on the wave function, the mathematical object that describes quantum systems. The wave function does not collapse in Everett's view. It evolves smoothly, branching as it goes. That smooth evolution means nothing is destroyed, nothing is lost. Even when you measure, even when you choose, the wave carries every outcome into its own continuation. Let's slow down and rest on that thought. Nothing is lost. Not the coin flips, not the mug choices, not the roads not taken. Every possibility continues. It is easy to confuse this with fantasy, as if you could jump between branches or talk to another version of yourself. But physics gives no such door. The branches are sealed, each moving forward without crossing. So the version of you who chose tea instead of coffee will never meet you here. Both live fully, but separately. This might sound sad at first, but think of it another way. Each version has its own chance to live completely. None is half real, none is unfinished. When Everett first suggested this, he faced skepticism. People thought it multiplied reality unnecessarily. But later, when scientists studied decoherence more deeply, they realized branching is not only possible, it is natural. It explains why quantum strangeness fades in large systems, why we see definite outcomes. The branches separate and stop interfering, leaving us with clear experiences. So when you roll dice at a table with friends and the numbers fall, in your branch one result appears, but the others exist too, just not for you. Take a moment to notice the air around you now, the hum of a refrigerator, the faint street sounds, your own breath. In this branch, that is what you hear. But if you accept many worlds, there are branches where the sounds differ, where silence falls heavier or a bird sings outside your window just as you drift to sleep. It changes nothing about your now, but it adds a depth beneath it, like layers of a painting hidden under the surface. Think of an artist painting a canvas. They try one color, then another, layering, adjusting. To you, the final layer is all you see, but underneath, the traces of earlier strokes remain. In many worlds, there are no discarded strokes, only complete canvases, each finished in its own way, each hung in a gallery you cannot enter. We do not need to rush past this. Let it settle. You live one path, and it is whole. The others are not yours, but they are not erased. And this brings us to a quiet question. If reality holds so many branches, what does choice mean? If every decision is taken somewhere, does your choice here matter? The answer is yes. Because for you, in this branch, your choice shapes the life you walk. The existence of other versions does not erase your own. It is like walking on a trail that splits into many forks. Perhaps there are countless other hikers on the other trails, but your feet touch the dirt here, your breath fills your lungs here, your path is real to you, and that is enough. The many worlds view does not reduce meaning, it deepens it. It says the universe values every possibility enough to carry it forward. It says your life is not one fragile thread, but one strong branch among many. One of the strangest comforts in the many worlds view is that the universe never throws anything away. No outcome is deleted, no possibility is erased. Everything that could happen does happen, carried forward into its own version of reality. At first, that may sound like excess. Why would the universe need to be so generous? Why not keep one tidy story and discard the rest? But the mathematics of quantum mechanics does not know how to throw things away. It only knows how to let them evolve. Picture a song playing on an old record player. The grooves of the record do not disappear when the needle passes. The whole song exists at once in the vinyl. The needle simply traces one path, and you hear that version of it, but the other grooves remain carved into the record forever. Many worlds suggests that reality is like that. You are the needle tracing one groove, while countless other grooves run beside you, each carrying its own melody. This is not just poetic language, it is an honest description of what the equations say. The wave function evolves smoothly, branching into different outcomes, but never collapsing. Collapse was something we added because we wanted the story to be neat, because we thought the world must pick one result. Everett asked, "What if we don't force that rule at all? What if we let the math stand as it is?" The answer was the forest of universes we now call the many worlds interpretation. To explain why this matters, let's go back to the double-slit experiment, the one with photons of light. When one photon passes through the slits, it behaves like it goes through both, interfering with itself. But when you measure which slit it went through, suddenly it chooses, the interference vanishes. Why? In the collapse view, measurement destroyed the other possibility. In many worlds, both outcomes occurred, but now you, the observer, are split. One of you saw the photon go left, the other saw it go right, each in their own branch. It may sound absurd to say you split, but remember, you do not feel it. You continue with a complete memory of your outcome, as does the other version of you. Each thinks they are whole, and they are. Think of standing at a fork in the road with a friend. One path goes left, the other right. You both walk together down one path, but imagine that the world itself quietly made a copy, and in that copy, you and your friend walked down the other road. Neither version knows about the other, neither feels less real. Both stroll along, talking, laughing, seeing the scenery unfold. That is what many worlds says reality does at every quantum fork. Of course, there is a difference between roads and quantum states. Roads can be seen, branches of universes cannot, but the principle is the same. No outcome is wasted, no possibility ignored. If you pause and look out your window now, you may see the lights of your city or the shadows of quiet countryside. In one branch of the universe, that same glance out the window revealed a bird on a wire. In another, the glass reflected your own face more brightly, and you turned away. Small, almost invisible differences, but each enough to carry forward into a different world. The idea can leave you with a feeling of immensity, like standing at the edge of a canyon so wide you cannot see the other side. But remember, you are not lost in this immensity. You live one path, and it is solid under your feet. The canyon may have countless echoes, but your voice still belongs to you. Now, let's think of time itself in this view. We often imagine time as a single line, a thread unrolling from past to future. But in many worlds, time looks more like a river delta, branching and rebranching into countless channels. You sail along one, yet the delta itself holds all of them. This reshapes how we think about the past and future. The past is one trunk, but even there, quantum events may have branched quietly, leaving versions of history that differ in small details. The future is not one line waiting for us, but many, spreading like branches in every direction. And yet, for you, it feels simple. You sail one stream, you remember one history, you expect one tomorrow. Let's bring this to something very ordinary, because the ordinary carries the deepest weight. Picture making toast in the morning. In one universe, the bread comes out golden and crisp. In another, you left it in too long, and smoke curled from the toaster. In another still, you decided not to eat toast at all. Each outcome has its place. Does this mean the universe is full of burnt toast versions of you sighing at the counter? Yes, in a way, but those sighs are real for those versions, just as your crisp toast is real for you. It can feel like this cheapens choice, but remember, choice is lived within the branch you walk. You chose, you saw the outcome, you carried it forward. The other versions did the same. None of them cancel each other, each is whole. Some physicists say this interpretation is too heavy, too extravagant. They prefer collapse, where only one outcome becomes real. But collapse has its own mysteries. Why does the wave choose one outcome? What counts as a measurement? Is consciousness required? Many worlds avoids these questions by simply keeping everything. If you've ever cleaned your kitchen and realized you kept too many old mugs and plates because you didn't want to throw any away, you understand the logic. Sometimes it is easier to keep everything than to decide what to discard. The universe, in Everett's view, is like that. It refuses to collapse possibilities. It keeps them all. As you listen, notice how this changes the texture of reality. You are not on a fragile thread. You are on one branch of an immense, sturdy tree. The other branches are invisible to you, but that does not mean they are thin or weak. They are as strong as yours, carrying their own lives and outcomes. And what about identity? Are those other versions of you still you? The answer is yes, but only from the perspective of physics. For you, the one sitting here now, they are not accessible, not shareable. They are like reflections in a mirror that walk away once you turn your head. Some find this troubling, some find it peaceful. It depends on how you carry the thought. But perhaps it can be taken like this. The universe values every possibility, so it keeps them all. That is not a burden, it is a generosity. Before we move further, pause for a moment. Think about the smallest action you made today, lifting a fork, sending a message, turning your head at the sound of something outside. In many worlds, each of those moments carried branches forward. But here you are, in this branch, whole and complete. And as we drift deeper into this idea, we will explore how this branching connects to the grand scale of the cosmos. Not just coins and toasters, but stars, galaxies, even the birth of the universe itself. Let's drift quietly now into those vast horizons, where many worlds touches the beginning of everything, where the question is not only about choices in kitchens, but about choices written in the first seconds of time. When we speak about many worlds, it is tempting to keep it small, to talk only about coins, dice, and cups of tea, because those are the choices we hold in our hands, the moments we can imagine. But quantum mechanics does not stop at the kitchen table. It applies to everything from the smallest particle to the largest star. And so, if branching happens, it is written across the universe itself. Take the birth of a star. A cloud of gas drifts in the dark, pulled together by gravity. Tiny fluctuations decide where the collapse begins, how fast it falls, how hot it gets. In one branch, the star forms a little faster, shining slightly brighter. In another, it takes its time, glowing cooler and dimmer. Each branch carries forward, each star burns in its own quiet way. You can think of it like bread dough rising in your kitchen. Sometimes the yeast wakes quickly, bubbling with enthusiasm. Sometimes it is slow, lazy, taking hours. The bread is still bread, but the timing shifts and the texture changes. In many worlds, every version of that dough exists, every loaf baked in parallel. Now imagine galaxies, great spirals of stars turning in space. When two galaxies pass close, their fates depend on tiny gravitational nudges. A star here, a star there, pulling just a little harder. In one branch, they merge into a single elliptical galaxy, a slow dance that takes billions of years. In another, they miss by a little more, continuing as separate spirals. The branches carry both outcomes, each as real as the other. Think of playing chess with a friend. One move early on can shift the whole game. But at that moment, both moves are possible. Both could be made. In many worlds, both are made, each leading to a different game, a different ending. Galaxies play chess too, but with stars and gravity as their pieces. The birth of planets is also full of branching. When rocks collide in the early solar system, some stick, some shatter. A slight change in speed, in angle, in timing, decides whether a planet grows or vanishes. In one branch, Earth forms as we know it, with oceans and continents. In another, the collisions go differently, and Earth is smaller, drier, perhaps lifeless. If you've ever stirred soup on the stove, you know how small motions change the whole swirl. A little faster, and the vegetables spin differently, a little slower, and they drift apart. Planetary formation is the same, a soup of dust and gas, stirred by gravity, branching into endless versions. This means that even the history of our world, of our lives, may rest on quantum branches. In one universe, an asteroid misses Earth, and the dinosaurs never fall. Mammals remain small. Life takes another path. In another, the asteroid hits harder, and Earth changes more violently. Each branch unfolds, each carries forward, and in one of them we sit here now, speaking of many worlds. Pause with that thought, let it rest in your mind like a smooth stone. Our existence may be just one branch of countless, yet it feels whole, complete, not lacking anything. The first moments of the universe itself may also have branched. In the hot, dense seconds after the Big Bang, quantum fluctuations rippled through the young cosmos. Some places grew denser, seeding galaxies, others thinner, leaving voids. In many worlds, every pattern of fluctuation continues in its own universe. Countless versions of the cosmos spreading out, each carrying stars, planets, and perhaps listeners of their own. Think of planting seeds in a garden. Some sprout tall, some stay small, some do not grow at all. The soil, the light, the water, tiny differences matter. In many worlds, every sprout grows, every outcome continues. The garden is not one plot, but countless, each tended in parallel. This can change how we see ourselves. Instead of being the single fragile outcome of chance, we become one of many, one path in a forest that holds them all. Let's take another step back into the everyday because it helps anchor the vast in the familiar. Picture baking cookies with a friend. Some turn out golden, some too dark, some spread too wide. Each tray is a little different. Each cookie carries its own outcome. In many worlds, the universe does not throw away any batch. It keeps them all, every golden circle, every misshapen edge. So too with stars, galaxies, planets, and lives. Each branch is kept, carried, continued. When scientists map the cosmic microwave background, the faint afterglow of the Big Bang, they see tiny ripples, tiny differences. In one branch, those ripples shaped galaxies one way, in another, a little differently. It is as if the universe painted not one canvas, but many, each stroke continuing on its own. Think of it this way. You walk into an art studio where an artist has painted dozens of versions of the same scene. Each canvas is slightly different, each complete, none less real than the others. You can only look at one at a time, but you know the rest are there, lining the walls. That is what Many Worlds offers. A universe that refuses to choose, a reality that keeps all versions. Pause here, notice your breath. In this branch, you are here, listening to this. In another, you may have paused earlier, turned off the sound, walked away. But here, you stayed, and this branch is yours. This is how Many Worlds stretches from the smallest particles to the largest stars. It says that every level of reality, from mugs to galaxies, from electrons to universes, branches quietly, naturally. And now, as we drift deeper, we will look at what this means for time itself and for the idea of infinity, how an endless forest of universes might hold not just possibilities, but reflections of ourselves scattered through eternity. Let's drift quietly now into that horizon, where many worlds brushes against infinity, and where the universe begins to look like a library that never stops adding books. When people talk about time, they often picture a line, thin and straight, stretching from the past behind them into the future ahead, a road you walk, one step at a time. The many worlds view asks us to adjust that picture, to let the road spread into a forest path, where every step forward divides into branches, each carrying you to a slightly different clearing. At first, that sounds complicated, but let's move slowly, gently, so the thought is easy to carry. Take a watch in your hand, hear its ticking, feel its weight. The watch counts time as if it were one single line of numbers. But beneath that ticking, in the physics of atoms and particles, time is not a simple line. It is a river that divides into streams, then streams that divide again. Each branch continues as if it were the only one, yet together they make a delta that spreads endlessly. In our everyday lives, time feels firm, unbranching. You remember your childhood, your friends, your old house. It all seems like one steady thread, but quantum mechanics says even the past may carry branches, not in the big events you recall, but in the tiny details too small for you to notice. A particle going left instead of right, a molecule binding here instead of there. Those invisible shifts carry forward, shaping futures you never see. It's like baking bread again and again. Each loaf rises, but no two are quite the same. The differences are small, a bubble here, a crack there, but they matter. In many worlds, every loaf bakes fully. Every version rests on the counter of its own kitchen, none discarded, none erased. This brings us to infinity, because once you let every quantum possibility continue, the number of universes is not just many, it is endless. Every moment branches into countless futures, each of those branches into more, on and on without limit. Infinity can feel cold, but it can also feel gentle. Think of standing on a shore, waves arriving one after another. You know they will not stop, but you do not need to count them. You just listen, you watch, you let them pass. The infinity of universes is like that, not something to tally, only something to accept. And within this infinity, reflections of ourselves appear, not perfect mirrors, but cousins, neighbors, other versions living other lives. One where you chose a different job, one where you said yes instead of no, one where you stepped left instead of right, each complete, each whole. If you walk past a row of shop windows at night, you see yourself reflected again and again. In one, your head turns slightly, in another, your arm swings differently. Each reflection looks like you, each is you in some sense, yet only one body walks forward on the sidewalk. The many worlds view says the reflections keep going, each into its own world, not fading when you pass. It is tempting to ask, are those other versions really me? Or are they strangers who happen to share my history until a certain point? Physics does not give an easy answer, but perhaps the question itself does not need to be solved. Each version is itself, complete, real. You are you, here, now, whole in this branch. Think of a tree with many apples. Each apple grows from the same trunk, the same roots, but each ripens in its own way. Are they the same apple? No, yet they all belong to the tree. In the same way, the many versions of you all belong to the wave function of reality. But each is its own fruit, its own sweetness, its own path. Now, let's slow down and think about how this touches our sense of choice. If every outcome exists, does that mean your choice does not matter? The answer is softer than it seems. Your choice matters in your branch because it shapes the life you live. The other branches carry other choices, but they do not cancel yours, they simply continue elsewhere. Infinity does not erase meaning, it multiplies it. It says that every story is told, not just one. Pause with that. Let it rest quietly in your thoughts. You are not a fragile line, but a sturdy branch in an infinite forest. You do not need to see the other branches to know they exist, and your own branch, the one you walk, is enough. This thought can bring a kind of peace, because it means no possibility is truly lost. The path not taken still exists, carried by another version of you, living it fully. You need not mourn it, you need only live the path beneath your feet. If you sit now with a cup of tea, warm in your hands, know that in another branch you chose coffee, in another you left the cup empty, but here, the warmth is yours, the sip is yours, the moment is yours. This is how many worlds reshapes time and identity. It tells us we are both small, one branch among endless branches, and vast, part of an infinite wave that never collapses. And from here, we can look forward to what this means for the cosmos itself. If every choice branches, if infinity holds them all, then the universe is not one story, but a library, endless shelves filled with every version of reality. Let's drift quietly now into that library where each book is a universe, each page a moment, and where no story is ever thrown away. Imagine walking into a library so vast that the shelves stretch beyond sight, row after row, aisle after aisle, each filled not with books about the universe, but books that are universes themselves. Each book tells a story in full, from its first page to its last. One contains your life as it has unfolded here, another contains your life with a different choice, another with a different beginning entirely. The many worlds interpretation says that this library is real, not metaphor, a quiet truth written into physics. You stand in one aisle, you hold one book in your hands, and for you it is complete. The paper feels smooth beneath your fingers, the ink shapes words you understand, the story flows from beginning to now. But on the shelves around you, countless other books sit, just as heavy, just as detailed, each holding another version of the tale. This is how we can picture many worlds without drowning in numbers. Instead of imagining infinite universes floating aimlessly, we picture a library, calm and ordered, where every possibility is stored. If you go into your kitchen and open a drawer, you might find it full of utensils, each with its own shape, its own purpose. Spoons for soups, forks for pasta, knives for bread. You never need all of them at once, but each has its place. Each belongs to the drawer. The Library of Universes is like that, a collection where every tool, every outcome is kept. Now, let's look at how this library grows. In classical physics, the future is one line, one next page written after the other. But in quantum physics, the wave function evolves into many possibilities. In the library image, that means every time an event can branch, a new book is placed on the shelf, one for each outcome. This does not mean you split like paper torn in half. It means the story continues in multiple directions, each full, each whole. You read one, the others are read by versions of you who belong to them. Think of a garden of paths. You walk one, your friend walks another, but from above you can see the whole garden, all paths at once. The library is like that, but for all of reality. Infinity can feel unkind if we picture it coldly, but in this image, infinity is simply abundance. There is enough shelf space for every story, enough ink for every word. Nothing discarded, nothing erased. Now pause and think of your own day, waking, walking, eating, speaking. Each moment was a word in the book you are reading. In another book, the words differ slightly. A different breakfast, a different call, a different glance at the window. Both books exist, both are complete. You hold one in your hands, and that is enough. Let's make this even more personal. Imagine you are telling a friend a story from your past. You describe the details, the people, the setting. You tell it one way, but you could have told it differently, left something out, added something in. Each telling would shape the memory in a new way. In the Library of Universes, both versions exist, not as memory, but as reality. And what about endings? If every book contains a full story, do some end better, some worse? Yes, but each is complete in its own way. One may be a tragedy, one a comedy, one an epic that stretches long, but each is a book, each stands on the shelf, none is missing pages. You may ask, who reads these books? The answer is no one, or perhaps everyone. The library does not need a reader to be real. The books exist because physics writes them, line by line, outcome by outcome. It can feel strange to imagine versions of you in other books, but remember, they are not ghosts, not copies, they are themselves, living their own pages. You need not worry about them, just as you need not worry about a story you are not reading. You live your book fully, and that is enough. Now let's stretch the metaphor. Picture an old librarian, calm, steady, not choosing what to keep and what to discard. They place every book on the shelf, no matter the story, no matter the outcome. The librarian is the wave function, the law of quantum mechanics, refusing to collapse, refusing to throw away possibilities. If you walk through this library in thought, you might feel awe, you might feel small, but remember, the book in your hands is real, not lessened by the presence of others. This brings us to an important shift. The library is not only filled with small choices like mugs and toast, it also holds the great cosmic volumes where stars burn differently, galaxies collide or drift apart, universes expand at different rates. The shelves are not limited to your life, they stretch to everything. Think of standing in a bookstore where each shelf holds not just novels and poems, but encyclopedias of entire civilizations. One book holds the history of Rome in one way, another holds Rome never rising at all. In the cosmic library, the scale is larger still, entire universes arranged side by side, each with its own history of matter, energy, and time. Pause here, let yourself breathe. Infinity is too heavy to hold at once, but you do not need to. You only need to hold the book you are in, the branch you walk. The rest exist, but they do not weigh on you. This image of universes as books in a library also helps us see why we cannot move between them. Books do not bleed into each other. The ink of one does not run onto the page of another. They are separate, whole, self-contained. So too with universes. No matter how many there are, each is sealed, each tells its own story. It may feel tempting to imagine reaching into another book, meeting another version of yourself, but physics does not open that door. Instead, it reminds you that your own story is enough, that meaning is not lost because other books exist. And perhaps that is the gentle comfort of many worlds. It says that reality is abundant, generous, unwilling to throw anything away. You are not less real because others exist. You are real because you live, here, now, in this story. Before we drift further, pause again. Think of a library you have visited. The smell of paper, the quiet aisles, the rows of books lined neatly. That calm is the calm of many worlds. A universe that keeps everything, not rushing, not discarding. Let's drift quietly now into the next thought. If every universe exists, what does that mean for life, for meaning, for the rare chance that beings like us exist at all? In the next part, we will step gently into that question, letting the thought unfold slowly, like turning the pages of yet another book. If the universe is truly a library filled with every story that could ever be written, then somewhere on those shelves are books about life, about chemistry taking a strange leap into biology, about molecules learning how to copy themselves, about cells joining forces to build creatures that think and breathe and wonder, like us. The question is not only whether life exists here, but what life means when every possibility is kept. Start simple, with your kitchen again. Picture a glass of water left on the counter. In one branch, it stays still, untouched, clear. In another, a tiny speck of dust falls in, changing the way the light bends through it. In another, a friend walks by and drinks it, leaving the glass empty. All of these outcomes exist, each in its own branch, none erased. Now replace that glass of water with the early earth, Oceans stretching wide, lightning striking, molecules floating. In one branch, the molecules remain as they are, simple, drifting. In another, they form something more, a structure that copies itself. That branch grows into the story of life. Many worlds suggests that both stories continue, that there are universes where Earth stayed quiet and lifeless, and universes like ours where life erupted and spread. Think of baking bread again, the dough rising on the counter. Sometimes it rises perfectly, light and airy. Sometimes it falls flat. Both are outcomes, both are baked, both sit on their own plates. In the cosmic kitchen, universes are like loaves. Some rise into life, others remain dense and silent. This brings us to meaning. If life exists in some universes and not others, what does that say about us? It says that in the library of possibilities, we are one of the stories that turned out rich, one of the books filled with voices instead of silence. Pause here. Let that thought settle. You are not an accident in a single fragile world. You are a chapter in an infinite shelf of stories. But what about versions of us? The idea that in some universes, life evolved differently, maybe sooner, maybe later, maybe not at all. The many worlds view accepts all of them. In one branch, Earth hosts a different history of life. In another, humans never appear. In another, civilizations rise and fall differently. If you walk through a city at night, each window glowing, each apartment holding a different life, you do not see inside them all, but you know they are there. Universes are like that, each window a different story of life, each glowing with its own light. Some might ask, does this cheapen our existence if there are countless versions? No, it does not. Because the meaning of your life is not in being unique among all universes, it is in being whole within your own. When you hold a book, you do not worry that there are millions of other books in the library. You sink into the story before you, you let its words carry you. The fact that other stories exist does not make yours less real. And so with your life, in this branch, it is yours, complete, valuable, meaningful. Let's step deeper into the science for a moment, gently. In quantum mechanics, particles are described by wave functions spreading across possibilities. When particles interact, those wave functions combine, and outcomes multiply. In small systems like electrons, we can see this directly. But in large systems like living beings, the branches separate so fast, so completely, that each version feels like a single, definite world. This is why you do not feel yourself split when you choose tea or coffee. Decoherence seals each branch, makes each outcome whole, so that you live it as if it were the only one. Think of raindrops on a window. They begin together, then slide apart, each carving its own path down the glass. From inside, you trace one drop, you watch it flow. The others exist too, sliding beside it, but your eyes follow one, and that is how your life feels. Now ask a deeper question. If life exists in many universes, does that mean somewhere there are other versions of you? The answer is yes, but not in a mystical way. They are not waiting to be met. They are simply living their own branches, one where you chose differently, one where the world around you shifted slightly. It can feel strange to think of yourself multiplied, but remember, you do not feel their lives, they do not feel yours. For you, this branch is enough. Imagine walking through a hall of mirrors, each reflection tilting at a different angle. You see yourself again and again, but each reflection has its own detail, a hand lifted, a head turned. In reality, you keep walking, steady, complete. The reflections are there, but they do not touch you. Many worlds says those reflections do not fade, they continue, each into its own universe. But you, here, remain whole. Some people wonder if this takes away free will, if every choice is made somewhere. But free will is not erased. Because in your branch, your choice still matters, it shapes your story. The fact that other stories exist does not change the one you live. Think of a garden full of paths. You take one, your friend takes another, each is real, each leads somewhere. The garden is not less beautiful because it holds many paths. If anything, it is richer. So too with the universe. The branching does not lessen your life, it surrounds it with abundance. Pause here, breathe gently, let the idea soften. You are part of something vast, but you are also enough as you are, in this moment, in this branch. Now, let's look at how this idea touches the rare chance of beings like us, intelligent life. If the universe keeps every possibility, then somewhere on the shelves are books where life never reaches intelligence, where creatures remain small, where no one builds cities or tells stories. And there are also books where life flourishes differently, where intelligence takes new forms, where beings unlike us wonder at the stars. It does not mean those beings exist here, in our world, but it means that across the branches, life has many chapters, many voices. Think of a choir, each voice singing a different part. You hear your part clearly, it fills your ears. The others sing too, but you do not need to hear them to know they exist. Together they make harmony, even if you only hear one line. That is what many worlds says about life. Your voice sings here, strong and clear, while countless others sing elsewhere. Before we leave this part, pause again. Look at the small details around you, the chair beneath you, the light in the room, the sound in your ears. In this branch, these details are yours, your book, your chapter. And as you rest with that thought, let's drift quietly now into the next question. If the universe keeps every story, what happens to the idea of endings? Can anything truly end in a library that refuses to throw a single book away? That is where we go next, into the quiet mystery of endings that are never absolute and stories that keep branching even as they close. When we think of endings, we often imagine a hard stop, a page turning, a curtain closing, a final breath. Endings feel sharp to us because in the life we live, we only see one line of time, one story unfolding. But in the many worlds view, endings soften because no branch ever truly disappears. Every outcome continues, every page is kept, every book remains on the shelf. Let's start small, with something familiar. Imagine you light a candle in your kitchen. In this branch, the flame burns steady, glowing warmly for an hour before it flickers out. In another branch, the flame sputters sooner, blown by a draft you didn't notice. In another, you never lit the candle at all. In our normal way of thinking, we say the candle ended when it went dark. But in the library of universes, that ending is not a deletion, it is just one page among many, kept and carried alongside all the others. So too with larger things. A tree growing in a forest, its trunk stretching tall, until one day it falls. In one branch, it falls during a storm, in another, much later, from age and decay, in another, it is never planted at all. Each ending exists, but the tree is never erased. It lives fully in its own book, complete and whole. Now, think of people. Each of us knows that life has an ending and that thought can feel heavy. But the many worlds view softens it, not by denying death, but by showing that every possibility of living continues somewhere. In one branch, you turned left instead of right, and your life unfolded differently. In another, you met someone you never met here, and that story grew long. In another, you passed sooner. In yet another, later. All of these are kept, not erased, each lived fully by the version of you that belongs to it. This doesn't mean you will live forever in the branch you walk now. Here, you are finite, and that finiteness gives weight to your days. But it does mean that endings are not deletions, they are simply closings within one book, while countless others remain open. Think of a library again. When you finish reading a book, you close it, you set it back on the shelf. The story does not vanish, it still sits there, word for word, waiting. It is complete, but not gone. Endings in the many worlds view are like that, complete, but never erased. Let's bring this down to something gentle and ordinary. Imagine making toast. In one branch, the toast burns and you sigh, scraping off the black edges. In another, it is golden and perfect. In another, you never put it in the toaster at all. In your branch, one of these was the ending of the toast story, but in the library, all of them are kept, each a page in its own little book. This may feel abstract, so let's move closer to the heart of it. What about our own lives? What about the people we love? What about their endings? Here is where the many worlds idea offers a quiet comfort. Not because it promises a reunion, not because it opens a door to move between branches, but because it reminds us that no life is truly erased. Every path continues, every possibility is stored. Think of photographs in an album. You turn the pages, you see faces from years ago. Some of those people are gone now, yet the photos remain, whole, real, reminders of moments that were lived. In many worlds, those moments are not just memories, they are still written in their own universes, still unfolding. This doesn't mean you should try to live in those other branches or that you can reach across to them. It simply means that life is not fragile in the way we fear. Every path is kept, every ending is softened by the knowledge that in the vastness of the cosmos, nothing is thrown away. If you sit quietly with a friend and share a story, the words pass, the moment ends, but the story remains in your memory and in theirs. In the same way, branches remain in the library of universes, whole and waiting, even after you move on. Now, consider stars. They too have endings. A star like our sun burns for billions of years, then swells into a red giant, then shrinks to a white dwarf, cooling slowly. In one branch, the star sheds its layers in a graceful cloud, in another, a bit more violently. But in every branch, the ending is kept. The light is not erased, it simply moves to the shelf of complete stories. And black holes, the strangest endings of all, where stars collapse so far that not even light escapes. In one branch, the black hole swallows nearby matter. In another, it remains quiet. But in each, the ending is not destruction, it is continuation, written in the deep mathematics of space and time. So what about us? What does it mean to live in a universe where endings are softened, where no possibility is lost? It means that our days, our choices, our lives matter fully in our branch, and they also exist as part of something larger. Imagine again the raindrops sliding down a window. One ends at the sill, another halfway down, another splits into two smaller drops. Each ending is different, but each path was real, complete. The drops do not disappear. They reach their resting place and remain part of the pattern on the glass. This thought can give us peace, because it means that endings are not sharp erasures. They are simply the closing of one path, while others continue. Pause here, let that settle. Think of the people you love, the life you live. In this branch, the time you have is finite, and that is what makes it precious. But in the larger view, every moment, every possibility is carried forward, kept on the shelf, never lost. In this way, many worlds does not erase the meaning of endings, it deepens it. It says that every ending is complete, whole, part of an infinite library where nothing is forgotten. And now, as we move further, let's drift quietly into the thought of what this means for identity. If endings are never erased, if every version of us continues, what does it mean to say, I am me? How does the self carry meaning in an infinite forest of selves? That is where we go next, into the quiet question of identity across many worlds, and the comfort of knowing that the you sitting here now is whole, complete, and enough, even in a universe that branches forever. When you hear that the universe may split into countless branches, each carrying another version of you, it is natural to pause and ask a quiet question. If there are so many versions, then which one is truly me? Let's walk into this question, slowly, calmly, so it feels like a path under our feet, not a storm in the sky. Start with something simple. You sit at a table with two mugs in front of you, one filled with tea, the other with coffee. You reach for the tea and that becomes your story. But in another branch, you reached for the coffee. and in another still you reached for nothing at all. Each version continues. Each version feels real to the you who lives it. So which one is the true you? The answer is gentler than it seems. All of them are true, each in their own branch. But for you, here, now, the T is your truth, your story, your identity. Identity in many worlds is like music played on many instruments. Each version of you is a melody, the notes familiar but the tones slightly different. No single version erases the others, but you only hear the one you are playing. Think of walking through a hall of mirrors. In each reflection, you see yourself tilt differently, smile differently, step differently. Every reflection looks like you, but you do not live in the glass. You live in your body, steady and whole. Many worlds suggests those reflections keep going, each into its own universe, but your branch is not less real because the reflections exist. Now let's go deeper. What makes you you? Is it your memories, your choices, your feelings? In the many worlds view, every version of you carries those things, shaped by the path it walks. In one branch, your memory includes one conversation. In another, it includes another. Both are true, but only one is yours. It's like writing in a notebook. Each page tells a slightly different story, but when you hold one page, you read its words, not the others. Your identity is not diminished because other pages exist. It is strengthened by the fact that the page you hold is complete. Some people fear that many worlds makes them less unique, that if there are countless versions, then their life is just one among many. But uniqueness is not about being the only, it is about being whole. You are whole in your branch, complete, not partial, not diluted. Pause here, let that thought settle. Your life is enough, even in a universe that holds endless lives. Now, let's think of friendships. The people you know, the bonds you share. In this branch, you met them, you laughed together, you built memories. In another branch, perhaps you never crossed paths, or you met at a different time. Both stories exist, but the one you carry here is not less real. If you go into your kitchen and open a drawer, you may find a set of spoons, all similar but each slightly different in size, in curve, in weight. You may only use one, but the others exist alongside it. They do not make the one in your hand less real, less valuable. They simply show that forms can repeat without losing meaning. The same is true of identity. Other versions of you may exist, but the one in this branch is not less real. You are as solid and whole as the spoon in your hand, as the path beneath your feet. Now consider memory. When you look back at your past, you remember one line of events. Many worlds says that in other branches, the memories differ, shaped by different choices, different outcomes. Those memories are real for those versions, but your memories are real for you. Think of a tree growing in a field, its branches spread wide, each with its own clusters of leaves. You stand beneath one branch, you feel its shade, you hear its rustle in the wind. The other branches exist, but the shade you feel belongs to the one above you. Your identity is like that, rooted in one branch, one shade, one story. Let's take this further. What about mistakes? What about regrets? In your life, you may sometimes wonder what would have happened if you had chosen differently. In many worlds, that question has an answer. Somewhere, a version of you did choose differently and lived that path. But here's the gentle truth. Their path does not cancel yours. Their choices do not erase yours. They live their life, you live yours, and both are kept, both are whole. It's like looking at a painting made of many colors. You may wonder what the painting would look like if blue had been used instead of red. In another painting, that choice exists, but the painting before you is not less beautiful because another version exists elsewhere. It is whole, complete, meaningful as it is. Now let's pause, breathe, and notice the feeling of being here, in your body, in your branch, your thoughts, your heartbeat, your memories. This is your identity, not reduced, not weakened by infinity, but strengthened by the fact that even in a forest of selves, You are whole in your story. And this raises a deeper question. If identity exists across many worlds, what does that mean for consciousness itself? Is your mind just one among countless, each aware only of its own branch? The many worlds view suggests yes. Consciousness is tied to the branch it lives in. It does not drift, it does not split. It simply continues in one version, while other versions continue in theirs. Think of sitting in a room with many clocks, each ticking at its own pace. You only hear the one nearest you steady and clear. The others tick too, but they do not intrude on your ears. Your consciousness is like that clock, tuned to one branch, while the others remain beyond your reach. Some philosophers argue that this makes identity fragile, that if there are countless versions of you, then the word you loses meaning. But I think it does the opposite. It makes identity abundant, rich, layered. Each version is whole, each is real, and the one you live is yours entirely. Before we drift further, pause again. Think of the smallest details around you, the air on your skin, the sound in your ears, the thoughts in your mind. This is your branch, yourself, your identity, steady and complete. And now, let's move toward the next question, one that naturally follows. If there are infinite branches, infinite selves, infinite universes, then what does this mean for the nature of reality itself? Is the universe a single thing, or is it truly a multiverse, a collection of everything that could ever be? That is where we go next, into the idea of the multiverse, not as science fiction, but as a quiet consequence of quantum mechanics, a reality that may be far larger than we ever imagined. When we hear the word multiverse, it often sounds like something pulled from a comic book or a science fiction movie. Worlds stacked on worlds, heroes and villains leaping from one reality to another. But the multiverse of physics is quieter, gentler, not about adventure, but about possibility. In the many worlds view, the multiverse is simply what happens when the wave function of the universe refuses to collapse. Instead of choosing one outcome, it keeps them all, each carried forward as a separate branch. Put together, those branches make the multiverse, a collection not of fantasies, but of realities, each whole, each complete. Think of a loaf of bread sliced into many pieces. Each slice is still bread, each holds the flavor and texture of the whole. But you eat only one slice at a time. The multiverse is like that, countless slices of reality, each part of the same loaf of possibility. Now, let's ground this in something familiar. Picture standing at a crosswalk. The light turns green, you step forward. In another branch, you hesitated, waited one more second. In another, you turned back instead of forward. Each outcome exists, each is carried forward, and together they are part of the multiverse. Not dramatic, not flashy, just natural. The multiverse is not somewhere else, it is here, wrapped around us, layered in ways we cannot see. Pause here, notice how this softens the idea. You do not need to imagine doorways or portals. You do not need to picture science fiction leaps. The multiverse is not about leaving your world. It is about accepting that many worlds unfold in parallel, each sealed, each whole. Science often resists the multiverse because it feels extravagant, because we cannot measure the other branches directly. But the equations of quantum mechanics lead us here naturally. They tell us that the wave function evolves without collapse, and if that is true, then the multiverse is not fantasy, it is the quiet background of reality. Think of walking into your kitchen and opening a drawer of cutlery. Forks, spoons, knives, all lined neatly. You only pick one to use, but the others exist all the same. The multiverse is like that drawer, a collection of outcomes, only one of which you hold in your hand, yet all of them real. And if you step outside, look up at the stars, the thought grows even larger. Because if branching happens at every quantum event, then every star, every galaxy, every cosmic history branches too. There are universes where stars burn brighter, where galaxies collide differently, where planets never form, where others flourish with life. The multiverse is not just about small choices, it is about the structure of everything. It can feel overwhelming, but let's walk slowly. You live here, in this branch, with your stars, your galaxies, your Earth. The others exist too, but you do not need to carry them. They are not your burden. They are simply part of the abundance of reality. Think of a forest again. Countless trees stretch in every direction, but you sit beneath one, feeling its shade, hearing its leaves rustle. You know the forest is wide, but the tree above you is enough. The multiverse is the forest, your universe is the tree. Now, let's think about what this means for physics itself. If the multiverse exists, then our universe is not the only one, not even the privileged one. It is one of many, one of countless. And yet it is still special because it is the one we live in. Imagine baking cookies on a tray. Some turn golden, some spread too wide, some stay small. Each cookie is its own, but all are part of the same batch. Our universe is one cookie, the multiverse is the tray. This image may seem humble, but it is fitting because the multiverse does not make us less real. It makes us part of something larger. Pause here, let that settle. You are not a fragile speck in one random universe. You are part of an infinite abundance, a reality that keeps everything, not discarding. Now think about the idea of somewhere else. In our everyday language, we say a place exists because we could, in principle, go there. But in the multiverse, the other branches are sealed. We cannot go to them, cannot meet the versions of ourselves who live there. They are as real as ours, but forever separate. This separation can feel sad at first, but it also gives clarity. It means you only need to live your branch, to walk your road, to read your book. The others do not intrude, they do not diminish you, they simply exist alongside, like quiet neighbors you never meet. Think of an apartment building at night, windows glowing, each with its own life inside. You cannot enter them all, you only live in your own. But knowing the others exist gives a sense of abundance, of richness, of life spread across many rooms. The multiverse is like that building, endless windows, endless lives, but yours is here, steady, enough. This thought also reshapes how we see chance. When you roll dice, in one branch the numbers fall one way, in another they fall another. Chance is not about one outcome being selected, it is about all outcomes existing, each in its own branch. If you sit with a friend at a table and flip a coin, in this branch you see heads, in another tails. For you, the outcome is clear, and that is enough. But in the multiverse, both continue, both are carried forward. So what does it mean to live in a multiverse? It means living fully in your branch, while knowing that countless others exist. It means finding meaning not in being the only, but in being complete, whole, enough. Pause here again. Notice your breath, your thoughts, your surroundings. In this branch, these are yours, this is your universe, your story. And as we rest with that thought, let's drift quietly now toward the next step. If the multiverse is real, if every possibility is kept, then what does that mean for infinity itself? How do we hold the idea of endlessness without letting it crush us, but instead letting it comfort us, like waves that never stop arriving at the shore? That is where we go next, into the quiet vastness of infinity and the way it softens our sense of the universe into something both endless and gentle. Infinity is one of those words that seems too large to hold. It stretches farther than our language, farther than our minds can picture. Yet the many worlds view asks us to sit with it gently, as if it were not a storm, but a horizon. When we say the universe branches endlessly, we are really saying that infinity lives quietly in the fabric of things. Every time a particle meets another, every time a choice is made, every time a wave of possibility spreads, infinity expands with it. Not loud, not violent, just steady. Think of waves on a shore. You do not try to count them, you only listen. They keep arriving, one after another, without end. Infinity is like that, not a number to measure, but a rhythm to accept. Now, let's bring it into your kitchen again, because even the vast can live in the familiar. Imagine pouring a bag of rice into a bowl. The grains tumble and scatter, too many to count. You do not need to count them to eat, you only need to know there are enough. Infinity is like that, grains of reality scattered across the cosmos, countless, abundant, never finished. In the library of universes, this means that every story is written, every page is kept, every possibility has a place. There is no last book, no final shelf, only more rows stretching farther and farther. At first this may feel overwhelming, but let's walk slowly, gently. Infinity does not mean your life is small, it means your life belongs to a reality generous enough to hold everything. If you go outside at night and look at the stars, you know there are too many to count. Yet you do not need to count them to feel wonder. You simply look, and the vastness itself is enough. Infinity in the multiverse is the same. You do not need to imagine every universe. You only need to know that the vastness holds them. Now pause, breathe, notice your own place in this. You are not lost in infinity, you are part of it. One branch among countless branches, one story among endless stories. This brings us to meaning. Some worry that infinity makes life meaningless, that if there are countless versions of us, then our choices matter less. But meaning does not come from being the only. Meaning comes from living fully, from being whole in your branch. Infinity does not erase that, it deepens it. Think of music. A single note is beautiful on its own, but when you know there are endless notes, endless melodies, it does not make the one note less, it makes it part of something larger. Your life is that note, strong and clear, part of the infinite song of the universe. Infinity also softens endings, because it shows that every story continues somewhere, that no possibility is lost. It reminds us that existence is generous, that reality does not discard anything, not even the smallest choice. So what do we do with this knowledge? Nothing dramatic, nothing loud. We simply live our lives, sip our tea, smile at our friends, watch the stars, knowing that our story is one among many, yet whole and complete as it is. Infinity is not a demand, it is a comfort. It says that you are part of something vast, and that vastness holds you, gently, without end. Pause once more, let that thought rest. You are here, in this branch, listening, breathing, around you, countless branches stretch into infinity. But you need only this one, the one that carries you through your days, your nights, your choices. And so we end this journey not with a final answer, but with a gentle acceptance. The universe may be infinite, the worlds may be many, the branches may be countless, but your branch is enough, your story is whole, your life is real. The many worlds view does not ask us to escape into other universes. It asks us to live fully in this one, knowing that abundance surrounds us. So let the thought of infinity soften you. Like waves on the shore, like stars in the sky, like books in a library too vast to finish, you live in one and that is enough. And as you rest now, you can let the branches fade gently into the background, like a forest beyond your window at night. Countless trees, countless paths, countless stories, and here you are in your own, steady and complete. This is the end of our journey through the many worlds of quantum choices. Not an ending of the universe, not an ending of possibility, only the closing of one story told gently in this branch. The library remains, the waves continue, the branches spread, but you are here and that is enough.